Well, good morning, and a beautiful morning it is. You got the sunrise coming up. Beautiful area, my common stomping grounds. Today I am running in a pretty neat shoe, one that a lot of people like, and I could see why people like this shoe. I'm talking about the Altra Lone Peak 9. This is the latest iteration of the Lone Peak series, and they've made some minor but still significant upgrades to the shoe. The Lone Peak 9 is a shoe that I describe as the Subaru of trail shoes, and for good reason. I'll explain that here in a moment. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that. If you're already a subscriber, thank you very much. Welcome back to the channel. Consider joining the channel membership, only $1 a month. Click the join button down below. Just goes to support the channel and all the efforts that I'm trying to do here. I'm going to be talking about the overall build quality, the performance, and the value of the Lone Peak 9. But first, voiceover Chad, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the specs and features of the shoe?
Altra states, take on legendary adventures in a shoe designed to keep up. We re-engineered the upper for more durability, improved the midsole, and updated the outsole for more grip. Get that classic Altra feel with zero drop and our roomiest toe box, with plenty of room to help your toes move more freely and space through the midfoot. Durability, grip, and connection to the trail, legendary. As for some of those specs and features, you get Altra's original foot shape fit, which is their roomiest, an RPET ripstop mesh upper with no-sew overlays, durable overlays on the toe box, gusseted tongue, gator trap hook and loop tab, Ultra Ego foam midsole, Max Track rubber outsole with 4.5mm lugs, 25mm heel and toe stack for that zero drop, weighing in at 316 grams or 11.15 ounces in a men's US size 10, and $140 US MSRP. I should also mention that Altra did send me this shoe for the purpose of review, but know that all thoughts and opinions are strictly my own. Chad, back over to you.
So this area is the Devil's Backbone. You can see all these rocks protruding out of the side of the hillside there. It's pretty neat. So that is the Devil's Backbone. But I don't have time to make it all the way back down there. But while I make my way back north, let's talk about the Lone Peak 9 for a moment. So I described the Lone Peak 9 as the Subaru of trail shoes. It's a shoe that many people like. It's a shoe that's reliable, it's outdoorsy and off-roady. It's one that's not overly expensive, but it's also not a shoe that is overly exciting. So the Subaru of trail shoes. Drop a comment down below and let me know if you agree or disagree with that statement. And by the way, all the B-roll footage that you're seeing in today's video was recorded after this run, so you're seeing the shoe in its true and current state. I've ran, as of the recording of this video, about 40 to 45 miles in the shoe, and by the end of this run I'll have put over 55 miles in the shoe, which does not include a good handful of walking miles. I took this shoe on an international trip, used it, wore it on the plane, wore it walking around everywhere, and found it to be very comfortable. Starting with the upper of the shoe and the build quality and comfort, I really like Altra's original fit. So you get more room in the toe box for your toes to kind of splay out, and despite that wider original fit that Altra is famous for, the shoe was never felt sloppy, and my feet don't move back and forth inside the shoe. Now, they've made some updates to the upper, mostly in the name of quality. So they've changed the ripstop upper and the no-sew overlays, but unfortunately it did add just the tiniest little bit of weight. But all in all, I think the improvements were needed and valued. Now the tongue is fully gusseted. In fact, the area on the side of the tongue that it is gusseted to, that extra piece of fabric, also lines the rest of the entire portion of the shoe. So that adds to the comfort and the build quality at a little bit of expense of breathability. That extra liner does have me slightly concerned with water drainage. I think it's gonna hold on to the water just a little bit longer than it otherwise would if you just had that ripstop upper. The tongue is also nicely padded, not a high quality padding, but sufficient enough that the laces don't dig into the top of your foot. They do lay nice and flat. It's easy to get a lockdown feel that's not too tight but stays comfortable. You get some really good padding, not plush padding, but some good supportive padding in the ankle and the heel, and there's some decent support around the ankle as well. So just no slipping at all in my ankle and no rubbing on my Achilles or my ankle bones. You do get the gaiter attachments on the back and the front, the Velcro on the back, and a little tab on the front near the toe box. On the upper, you also have some really nice, super durable overlays, particularly around the eyelet chain and the front of the shoe at the toe box. So that toe box has some really stout, robust protection. In fact, I think it's maybe a little overkill at the expense of having extra protection in the toe box. Really good for some trail running and hiking when you maybe accidentally stub your toe against a rock. All in all, the upper build quality and the comfort is actually really nice and exceeded my expectations. Moving down the shoe, you get Altra's Ego midsole foam. It is a higher quality midsole compared to their standard compressed EVA foams. It feels responsive, but you're only getting about 25 millimeters of stack, heel and toe stack. So 0 drop. 25 millimeters is just enough to be comfortable, but it is certainly not a high stack compared to today's standards. Now, I found it to offer really good ground feel, but not at the expense of making my feet fatigued or tired of feeling the ground. And I think a lot of it has to do with that midsole. It is slightly soft and slightly responsive, nothing inspiring, but decent. And then moving down to the very bottom, you get that outsole rubber, Altra's proprietary formula. Almost as good as Vibram rubber, not quite, but still exceeded my expectations there, although my expectations weren't set very high on the outsole, but it's doing much better than I expected it to. Gripping into the dirt, gripping onto the rocks and other debris on the trail, actually really giving me enough confidence that I feel like I can rely on the outsole to do its job and to keep me running smoothly and without slipping on the trails. And in See Chad Run fashion, I was walking, not running, my bad. But I'm gonna give overall build and build quality a solid 8 out of 10, comfort 8 out of 10. But all in all, I'm really pleased with the Lone Peak 9 build quality and comfort. All right, let's move on to the performance of the shoe. Woo! This terrain is pretty gnarly. It's fairly technical, lots of jagged rocks and rocks that you really have to look out for and dance around and on top of. It's actually a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of mental power to, not sprain an ankle. But I'm certainly enjoying myself out here today. All right, so moving on with the performance of the Lone Peak 9. I want to also hear from you. Drop a comment down below. Have you ran in any of the Lone Peaks of the past or the Lone Peak 9? And what has been your experience in that shoe? Did it perform to your expectations and to your liking? Did you have any problems or issues with the upper or its overall durability? So for me, I find that I enjoy this shoe for those more casual trail runs. It just bodes really well with those casual miles where I'm not looking to set a PR, I'm not looking to race, I'm just out for a good time. I already mentioned that I don't feel like, despite the wider toe box, that my foot is sliding around or moving inside the shoe. I still have that good secure hold in the midfoot and the ankle, which means that the shoe allows me to run without distraction. I also really like that wider platform because I feel stable in the shoe. I've never felt like I'm going to roll or twist my ankle. And while the midsole is good, it's not really an inspiring midsole either. It's soft enough, and if you're looking for something with a little more cushioning underfoot, I recommend you check out the Timp 5. But I appreciate the low to ground contact and feeling that the Lone Peak 9 offers. Whew. Gotta pay attention to the trail here. It's a little more technical. A lot of rocks to dance around. Speaking of which, the outsole grip is actually doing a really phenomenal job. Those lugs are gripping into the different areas of the trail and the rocks. I just don't feel like I'm gonna be slipping around on any parts of the trail. So good job, Altra, on the outsole. I think you revamped that formula and improved it over some of your offerings in the past. Gotta stay hydrated. So I'm gonna give performance an 8 out of 10. That's a pretty solid score, but for your daily regular trail miles, and if you're looking for a zero drop shoe, I think this is definitely one worth considering. And by the way, if you're interested in the Altra Timp 5 BOA, I will be reviewing that shoe very soon. Okay, oh, check out this view here. I love seeing the mountains out there. That is at the very end, if you can see that, is Long's Peak, which is Colorado's most northern 14er. Lone Peak is a mountain in Utah, which I've actually ascended before. It is an awesome climb. I love coming out here. Beautiful ridge line. We're gonna be going clear over there to get back to the car. Just such a beautiful area. I'm so grateful to be out here. So grateful to have you join me. Grateful for Altra for sending me these shoes. There's just so much to be grateful for. All right, so I'm gonna drop down behind the ridge line here, so it's gonna be a little more shaded. Won't be able to see the sun for a little bit, but that's okay. Let's talk about the value of the Lone Peak. At $140 US MSRP, that puts the shoe in today's standards on the medium to lower range of prices. I think $140 is a very good value for this shoe. There aren't too many other shoes that come in at $140 that I would recommend, although the Merrell Agility Peak 5 is definitely one that I would recommend, also $140. But if you're looking for zero drop, Altra Lone Peak 9 is definitely one that I would recommend you checking out for that price tag. Getting some decent upgrades, getting an upgraded outsole, midsole, and an upper, I'm optimistic will last much longer than some of the Lone Peaks of the past. I do think there is some room for improvement, particularly around the weight. I think the shoe could weigh a little bit less. It's over 300 grams. And considering that it's not a higher stack shoe, that's on the slightly heavier side, although the shoe hasn't felt heavy underfoot. So there's another performance aspect that I forgot to mention. Okay, so wrapping up value, $140 is a fair and good price to pay. And it's a shoe that offers a nice dynamic feel, underfoot feel with the ground. I do feel connected to the trails, although it's not an otherwise inspiring feeling. But it does bode well for those just daily, everyday trail miles. So value, I'm gonna have to give it a solid 8 out of 10 as well. All right, so once again, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Lone Peak 9 and what your experience has been in the Lone Peaks of the past. Which ones have you tried, have you ran in, and what was your experience? The Lone Peak 9 is the Subaru of trail shoes. It's reliable, it's off-roady and outdoorsy. It's popular for good reason. It's not overly expensive, but it's also not overly inspiring and exciting. That's not a bad thing, the Subaru of trail shoes. All right, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. We'll see you on the next video. Remember to be consistent, express gratitude, and enjoy every mile as I am today in the Altra Lone Peak 9. I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.